Hey everyone, hope you're doing well. This morning I was reading 1 Kings 19 verses 11 and 12, which says, "The Lord said, 'Go out and stand on the mountain in the presence of the Lord, for the Lord is about to pass by.' Then a great and powerful wind tore the mountains apart and shattered the rocks before the Lord. But the Lord was not in the wind. And after the wind there was this earthquake, but the Lord was not in the earthquake. And the earthquake came with a fire, but the Lord was not in the fire. And after the fire came this gentle whisper." This gentle whisper is speaking to Elijah. And I think many of us can relate to Elijah in this passage. Just before this moment, Elijah had experienced incredible victories, and God had shown himself in powerful and dramatic ways. And yet now Elijah's discouraged, he's exhausted, afraid, and ready to give up. And he's finding himself alone in the wilderness, wondering, what's next? So as Elijah stands on this mountain, God sends this mighty wind, an earthquake, and even fire. And these are dramatic displays of power, exactly the kind of thing we may expect God to use to get our attention. But then in this verse, it tells us that God didn't use those things. But instead, after all of the noise had passed, God spoke to Elijah through a whisper. And I find that can be comforting, but also challenging. It's comforting because it reminds us, that God's not absent when things feel ordinary. You see, we often look for these big dramatic signs, big miracles, unmistakable moments, and we think God's going to speak through something loud and obvious. We want the burning bush moments. And sometimes he does do that. But I find more often he speaks through the quiet moments. He speaks through his word during our devotions or when we read the Bible. He speaks through the encouragement that comes from a friend. He speaks through a nudging or a conviction that we may be feeling in our heart. He can speak during a quiet walk or a moment of prayer, or even just a few moments of silence and stillness before him. But the challenge is that when he whispers, it requires us to pay attention and listen. If someone's whispering, we don't move farther away. We lean in, we get closer. And that's the invitation that God gives us. That in a world that's filled with constant noise, with deadlines and distractions and notifications popping up on our phone, we need moments where we can intentionally slow down and listen. Not because God isn't speaking, but because often we're too busy and there's too much noise to hear him. So perhaps today you're facing some type of an uncertainty. Maybe you're carrying stress or disappointments or even just questions as to what to do or what comes next. So instead of looking for those dramatic answers, maybe let's consider spending some time in quiet prayer or opening our Bible and just sitting in God's presence and asking him to speak. You may discover that the God who does command the wind and bring the earthquakes and all that fire and everything is also a God who can meet you with a gentle whisper. And sometimes that whisper is exactly what your life, what your soul needs. So let's thank the Lord that he is always present, even when life can feel overwhelming. And pray that he helps us to quiet our hearts and to listen to his voice, to recognize that gentle whisper, even amongst all of the noise. May he give us ears to hear, hearts to obey, and confidence to trust his leading. God bless.